Hi, my name is Andy Kaytes, and I am here with Rin from Thailand or Myanmar by way of Thailand. We're here in Seattle at CROI 2019. And is this your first time at CROI?
Yep, I first time at CROI.
Excellent. Well, welcome. So what I want to do is I'd really like to ask you a little about yourself. What got you interested in science? What got you interested in infectious disease? And where you're working, how you see your career going.
Right.
So where did you begin?
Right, so I'm currently working as a clinical trial physician in the HIP-NAT Thailand AIDS Research Center, and my current interests including comorbidities and co-infections among the HIV-infected participants. So this is really such a pleasure and honor to be in the CROI. So I'm really excited about it and really enjoyed a lot about the meeting.
That's great. It's a big conference, isn't it? There's a lot of people.
Right,
it's kind of overwhelming, at least. It's overwhelming on your 10th, 20th time. Believe me, it's no different. 1,000 posters or more, and just presentation, one right after the other.
Overwhelming. Yeah.
So you're originally from Myanmar?
Yeah, I'm originally from Myanmar. So I graduated from Myanmar and have been trained medical school from Myanmar, and then eventually I went to Thailand for my master's degree, and then eventually joined the Thai Red Cross for my current position.
And is that difficult to go from one country to another for training, or is it? Are there mechanisms that make that easier?
Right. Because I got the scholarship from the for study the master degree, so it makes me like not that difficult, but it's still struggling a lot for the study in different country. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's still in Asia, so I would say like not that difficult comparing to going to other countries.
Is it challenging with language differences?
Well, at the beginning, there's some cultural shock, like different populations, different languages. But I think after a while, like a month or a couple of months later, I kind of used to it. Right. Mm-hmm. So so.
Good deal. Great. So you have two posters here.
Right, I got two posters.
And one of them's on hepatitis C, and is that with co-infection in HIV?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, and what genotypes?
Right, so we got like most of them are genotype 1A.
Okay.
So we see a lot of new incident cases among the MSM participants who are follow-up and taking the ART for many years. They totally virus suppressed, but because of different risk exposure, such as the gondola-sex or the methamphetamine use, including ingestion, inhalations, we see a new trend of Hep C incidents among the Thai MSM, especially in Bangkok, Thailand. Right.
Wow. And what is treatment like there?
The treatments, well, I would say that's out there there's a DAA treatment, which is steroid antiviral agents, but in Thailand the uptake of DAA is still low comparing to the other countries. So even though there's cheaper DAAs available, but it's still uptake is still very low. So right now we're working on with different policymakers or the different guidelines to push the DAA to be widely available, so that there will be no further transmission for the Hep C.
I see.
Right.
And so tell me a little about your poster. When did you start your project?
This was like a student analysis, so we have seen the trend since. This is retrospective analysis, so it's like it's like a data analysis, so it's quite short for the project. Right?
Interesting.
Right. So we follow up for the patients that have been in a cohort for many years, more than 20 years, and then seeing the incidence of the Hep C. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a retrospective analysis.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
That's really interesting. Are you finding that times 20 years ago versus today are very, very different?
Yeah, such as the we see from the before 2014, which is a time point that the PrEP was initiated. Before 2014, we see like 0.8% year, 100% year follow-up, which means the incidence was quite low. But after 2014, we see like 2-point-something% year follow-up, meaning the incidence was increased over the time, especially after 2014. Mm-hmm. Time point means a lot because we don't really know, is it because of the PrEP initiation is or is it because of the behavioral changes among the population, which I mean MSM population. So it's really interesting to see what's going on, I mean, in the future, right?
Interesting. So what are the conclusions in your poster? What have you found?
So what's the next step of my poster going to be? We're going to try to see the phylogenetic analysis, which is to identify the transmission cluster, meaning who are transmitting to who, especially it could be used for the public health interventions.
So epidemiology is a focus
That's right.
on this.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
That's great. And your other poster, is it also related to epidemiology?
It's kind of like different things. It's like a little bit basic science stuff, like immune activation marker. We're trying to see the CD4 CD8 ratio, which is also called as the immune activation marker among the children and adolescents who have been perinatally infected or the infected during the childhood or adulthood. So it's kind of like to see the immune activation, even though they're virally suppressed, but the inflammation is still going on within the body. Right.
Wow. So you're having to bounce back and forth between hepatitis C and HIV work, and wow. And I imagine the hepatitis C cohorts were not necessarily adolescents and things, and you probably have a much younger population in the CD8.
Well, yeah,
CD4.
it's different population. So the MSM population is the participant who are like follow up and taking the ERT for long, but for the pediatric cohort, it's a different method. So they like perinatally infected and started the ERT after they got infections, and then well, it's totally different population, I would say.
And does it only go up to like 18 adolescents or?
Right. So after the 18 years old. Well, we start the transition process to the adult clinic around 18 years old. So we try to explain them and try to let them know why you're taking the drugs and kind of like disclose the HIV status to them, and then starting the transition period from the pediatric clinic to adult clinic. Well, I'm not a pediatrician, but sometimes I see some adolescent cases. Right.
So I know that it's very challenging in the United States to make that transition from the adolescent, in pediatric trials with the same people, in moving them into adult networks and things. It seems like we lose so many people to follow up for that. And what kind of challenges have you seen with that?
Right, we do see a lot of challenges, especially those adolescents who are really having some depressions or some psychiatric problem as well, since they have been taking the ERT for many years, and then probably they have been tiring or fatigue of ERT, and then we see some proportion of the participants, even though they follow up very frequently, but the viral load is not suppressed, meaning they're not taking the drugs regularly, or even though they come into the clinic very frequent. So that's the thing that for the management of the drugs could be more complicated because of the possibility of a resistance emerging because of the poor drug adherence. So those are the challenges that we're having.
Right. It is so challenging because, they just want to be like other kids.
Yeah.
And they don't want to have to take pills. And things, and it is.
And then people would think you're different, but actually they just want to be the same with everyone, right? Until you're taking the drugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, do you see some things on the horizon, such as maybe long-acting antivirals being a solution, or a solution for some, maybe?
I think that will be a really fantastic option because of you just come to the clinic and get an injection. It could reduce a lot of stigma and discrimination, I would say. Is that those kids who are living, probably they go into the school and they have to stay with other people, and then people will find out that whether you're taking, the drugs. And then I think that's the reason that, especially in Asian cultures, that they don't want other people to find out the drugs that they're taking. So I think long-acting could be a really good option for those people. Yeah. So I really hope the future will be, better for them. Right.
Wow. That's. And it's a long way off,
Yeah, it's a long way
unfortunately.
off, right.
There's so many
Yeah, it's-
challenges.
Definitely, right.
I mean, it's one thing to get the formulations of the medication, but
Right.
to get
And-
them approved and
Right.
deal with things like in the case of
Right.
cabotegravir, the long
Right.
tail.
And we can imagine it's a lot of logistic issue if you have to inject the drugs for every 2 months for a lot of people as well. So
Sure.
there's a lot of things that could be considered. Right.
Yeah, and then I would imagine that the cabotegravir rilpivirine combination that's
Yeah.
being researched so heavily now requires refrigeration,
Right.
and that is a little bit of a problem in a lot of places.
Definitely, yeah.
Because there's a lot of rural areas in Thailand that might be a problem just shipping.
Right. I mean, I would say like that could be a problem for the logistics because you have to be in the cold chain and then all those drugs have to be, well stored. So I think it could be a lot of challenge. But we have to think about if there is any other alternative option that will be a better choices. So I think, we,
Make it work
Yeah.
somehow.
Right.
Yes. And how many people would you be talking about? What's your N for the adolescent pediatric study?
Oh, the adolescent pediatrics, we have around 150 in our cohort.
Okay.
So it's not that much, but they have been taking the ERT for many years. Some have been taking the ERT for like 15, more than 15, almost 20 years.
And
Right.
is it widespread throughout the country, or is your population centralized in Bangkok or somewhere else, or Chiang Mai?
I would say some of the people coming follow up for the other provinces, but it's still concentrated on the Bangkok province. Right. We do have some participants coming very far from the other rural area, but most participants are concentrated on the Bangkok area.
And how is it as far as their visits? Are people making their visits very well, or is that adolescent problem of not wanting to be involved in taking medication, is that hampering your efforts at all?
Right. I would say the team is really great. I mean, Dr. Tanyawi and the team was taking care of the pediatric cases, and the nurse, they're really friendly with the nurse so that if they can talk with the nurse, and then they always have communications like these days, social media, and then every time they can communicate with each other. So I think the environment created them for the follow-up very friendly. Right.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah,
Makes a big
definitely.
difference.
Yeah,
And
I
then
believe so.
circling back to your hepatitis C study,
Yep.
I would imagine that there's many, many more in the population for the study because it's longitudinal. You're looking back at
Right. Right.
older data and everything. How many participants do you have on that?
So we take a look at the around 800 participants, and we see around 30 incident cases, meaning that there's a lot of new cases. Well, if we compare to the past, so it means we really need to understand what's happening among the Amazon populations. And in the clinic, we noticed that people are starting to use a lot of methamphetamine, which is also called the ice. And even though this is illegal, but I would say it's like people still can get access to it, and we really need to think about how do we talk about the risk reduction or the consequences of this, especially like needle exchange or any things that we can help for them instead of like criminalization or making the laws more stricter.
And for our audience that may not know, and I don't necessarily know, is needle exchange something that's acceptable?
Well,
Is it legal?
It's not legal in Thailand, so unfortunately it's not legal in Thailand, but there's still a lot of works trying to convey that this needle exchange is necessary for the region, but unfortunately the country they didn't accept it or they didn't allow for this to happen. Right. So I'm not in the expert in the public health field, but according to the practice as a physician in the research settings, I would say needle exchange could be a good option for the harm reductions.
Yeah,
Right.
wow. It sounds like a lot of challenges.
That's true.
So are you looking at other populations for maybe future studies such as transgender people or heterosexual men,
Right.
women?
Right. So we do have among the Thai Red Cross AIDS Research Center, we have a transgender clinic named the transgender clinic, mostly the participants are the transgender, so they could be transgender man, they could be transgender woman, and having access for the hormonal therapy and also HIV testing as well. So that's a part of the team that's doing this. For me, I was in different settings, like I'm taking care of the participants who are having the clinical trials. So I would say for the future, it could be different population as well.
Wow.
Right.
Wow, that's interesting. So, how long ago did you start your endeavor into medicine and science?
For the HIV, I think around 4 years ago, I was in the HIV clinic in Myanmar. So I started to see the patients of HIV patients since then, and then I went to the school for like another 2 years, so that like 4 or 5 years or so.
Okay,
right.
So where do you see yourself 4 or 5 years from now, 10 years?
Well, that's a really tough question. So I'm trying to get a PhD right now, so I would do the PhD, and then after that probably I would be a researcher or do my postdoc in some others. So I would see in the future I could be like a researcher in the HIV field as well, right? Yeah.
And so in the opening plenary, obviously there was a great presentation about Thailand and everything. What did you think about that?
Oh yeah, I think I'm kind of like proud of the agenda panel, like talking about the Thailand achievement. Well, still a lot of challenges they have. We still need to face a lot of challenges. I mean, so that's really amazing that how Thailand have achieved through the many years. Right, since 1990, since the HIV was happening. So we have a lot of patients like following up since that time and until now. So I hope in the future that Thailand will have a better future and a brighter achievement as well.
Right. What's the landscape in Myanmar compared to Thailand?
Landscape, you mean in terms of HIV field?
Well, and or hepatitis.
Since I'm not working in the Myanmar right now, I couldn't comment a lot. But I think Myanmar is still happening a lot of challenges as well. But compared to the past, it's a lot of improvement that's having happened, such as the dolutegravir, DDG implementations, and a lot of new things happening. Right? Mm-hmm. So I would say it's the different setting, but the improvement have been seen in Myanmar as well.
That's terrific.
Right.
It sounds like you're doing a lot of good things there. And I'm kind of interested in what you might say to younger people who are thinking about maybe going into medicine or research or science.
Well, I don't know how to start with it.
Has it been fulfilling for you?
Right. So at the beginning, I'm not really interested in like ID or HIV, but when I started to go to the HIV clinic and when I started working in the NGO in Myanmar, so I feel like HIV is kind of like a disease that we have to really make the progress, especially in the region, in the Asian region. So that's what motivates me to be a researcher. So I would say I really like it to be a researcher, happening as researchers. But for those who want to get into medicine or who want to do the research, I would say you really need to find your interest, what your interest, and keep focusing on it, and then just try your best to chase what you're doing. Yes.
Well, I got to say, Dr. Wayne, I'm really glad that you've found your niche, and I thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing your work in the future as well.
Look forward to see you as well.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.